Every single day, brilliant engineers build absolutely flawless products. They hit every strict deadline. They meet every single complex technical specification. They spend millions of dollars in venture capital. And then the product completely, spectacularly fails. It dies silently on the shelf. Why? Because pure, unadulterated logic is a massive trap. The smartest, most highly compensated companies in the world know a terrifying secret. They deeply understand that aggressively listening to what customers explicitly say they want is a mathematically guaranteed path to bankruptcy. Humans are entirely irrational. They are messy. They are driven by invisible, conflicting emotions. But there is a hidden framework, a deeply counterintuitive psychological strategy that completely ignores traditional corporate market research. It is an operational system that engineered the modern smartphone, the computer mouse, and the very fabric of our daily digital lives. We will reveal the exact hidden mechanics of this framework and how it completely rewrites the rules of global innovation a little later in this breakdown. In the history of modern business, two massive entities stand entirely apart: Apple and IDEO. One is the most valuable technology empire on the planet. The other is a highly secretive, elite global design consultancy. Together, they did not just build shiny plastic products. They completely redefined human behavior. They successfully achieved this by aggressively rejecting traditional engineering principles. They entirely rejected the spreadsheet. Instead, they adopted a radical, highly empathetic methodology known broadly as design thinking. So how exactly did a philosophy that actively embraces chaotic human emotion over cold, hard mathematics create trillions of dollars in compound wealth? That is the exact question we are answering today. To deeply understand the absolute genius of this framework, we must go back to a dark, highly frustrating time: the early 1980s. The personal computer industry was an absolute, terrifying nightmare. Computers were highly intimidating. They were massive, ugly boxes of glowing green text and complex mathematical codes. They were built strictly by brilliant engineers, entirely for other brilliant engineers. Normal human beings absolutely hated them. They were deeply, psychologically terrified of breaking them. Apple was in massive, existential trouble. They were aggressively trying to build a revolutionary new computer called the Lisa. They desperately wanted to introduce a graphical user interface. To successfully navigate this new digital world, they needed a highly specific physical device called a mouse. But there was a catastrophic, seemingly unsolvable problem. The existing mouse technology was owned by Xerox. It cost a staggering $300 to manufacture. It was incredibly, terrifyingly fragile. If a single microscopic speck of dust got inside the delicate internal ball bearings, the entire machine completely broke. It was a beautiful, flawless piece of highly complex engineering. And it was an absolute commercial disaster. This was the terrifying dip in the J-curve. Apple was staring straight down the barrel of total corporate failure. They were aggressively trying to force a highly complex, deeply fragile engineering marvel onto a highly resistant consumer public. They were completely stuck. The traditional engineering process had entirely failed them. They needed a strategic miracle. Enter a highly eccentric, fiercely brilliant designer named David Kelley. He founded a small, scrappy firm that would eventually become the legendary powerhouse IDEO. Apple brought Kelley's elite team in to do the absolute impossible: build a reliable mouse that cost exactly $15. Build a mouse that never, ever breaks. Build a mouse that a complete novice could use intuitively in 10 seconds. Kelley did not immediately start with a complex schematic. He did not open a textbook. He started with radical, unyielding empathy. This is the foundational, unshakable bedrock of design thinking. You completely abandon the technology. You meticulously and aggressively study the flawed, messy human being. The IDEO team did not ask people what kind of mouse they wanted. They actively knew the consumer would just ask for a smaller Xerox mouse. Instead, they aggressively observed how human hands naturally rested on a flat desk. They quietly watched how anxious people absent-mindedly fiddled with objects. They realized a profound, earth-shattering truth. People absolutely do not want to learn how to use a computer. The computer must intimately and seamlessly learn how to interact with the person. This profound realization immediately led to the next brutal phase. Rapid prototyping. In traditional business, you spend 8 agonizing months building a perfect, highly polished prototype. You protect it fiercely. Design thinking demands the exact, violent opposite. You build absolute garbage. You build it incredibly fast. You fail aggressively and publicly. The IDEO team literally went to the local drugstore. They bought standard roll-on deodorant. They ripped out the hard plastic balls. They took a plastic butter dish from a standard kitchen refrigerator. They hastily glued them together. It was incredibly ugly. It was utterly ridiculous. It was a flawless masterpiece of rapid iteration. They aggressively handed these crude, bizarre objects to normal, non-technical people. They rigorously tested them in real time. They watched exactly where fingers slipped. They intensely watched where human frustration visibly spiked. Every single failure was a massive, highly valuable victory. It was raw, unfiltered behavioral data. They iterated hundreds of times in a matter of weeks. They aggressively stripped away all the complex, fragile engineering of the expensive Xerox mouse. They completely replaced the intricate, failing ball bearings with a wildly simple rubber ball rolling freely on a flat table. The ultimate result. The iconic Apple mouse. It cost exactly $15 to successfully manufacture. It was virtually indestructible. It completely changed the trajectory of human history. IDEO heavily applied this exact same aggressive framework a decade later when an American television network challenged them to entirely redesign the standard grocery store shopping cart in just 5 days. The traditional shopping cart is a nightmare. It is highly dangerous. It completely lacks maneuverability. It is stolen constantly. A normal engineering firm would have simply tried to build better wheels. IDEO completely ignored the wheels. They aggressively went into grocery stores and rigorously interviewed professional shoppers, frazzled mothers, and the teenage employees who actually corral the heavy carts. They empathized with the extreme human frustration. They defined the actual problem. It was not about carrying groceries. It was about safety, theft prevention, and checkout efficiency. Through rapid, chaotic ideation and deeply unpolished prototyping, they built a highly modular cart with removable baskets, a child safety seat, and a sleek frame that was utterly impossible to steal. They proved once again that the methodology was not just a theoretical academic concept. It was a ruthless, highly efficient engine for solving impossible operational problems. So what is the ultimate, profound revelation here? What specifically makes design thinking so dangerously effective across completely different industries? The massive aha moment is the realization that human beings are completely incapable of clearly articulating what they actually need. If you blindly ask a customer what they deeply want, they will simply ask for a slightly faster version of what already currently exists. They are completely trapped by their present reality. Design thinking completely short-circuits this cognitive trap. It forcefully and violently shifts the entire corporate focus from the rigid technical specification to the actual human friction. It mathematically assumes that the user is completely right and the product is completely wrong. By aggressively forcing highly logical engineers to deeply empathize with the irrational, emotional reality of the user, it actively strips away dangerous corporate ego. And that is the profound secret. Design thinking is absolutely not about making plastic things look pretty. It is a highly rigorous, intensely structured operational system for mathematically monetizing human empathy. It completely eliminates the massive trillion-dollar risk of flawlessly building a perfect product that absolutely nobody wants. But actually applying this extreme level of empathy to a massive, highly complex modern organization is incredibly difficult. You can deeply understand design thinking in theory. But when you look at your own massive, sprawling global workforce, the clean theory instantly collapses into chaotic reality. Think deeply about the complex internal software your employees are violently forced to use every single day. Most legacy corporate systems are built exactly like those terrifying 1980s computers. They are heavily built strictly by software engineers, purely for other software engineers. They are deeply frustrating. They aggressively destroy team morale. If your internal human resources data is a chaotic, unorganized, highly siloed mess, you absolutely cannot empathize with your employees. You cannot successfully iterate on your corporate culture. You are completely, terrifyingly blind. This is exactly why ambitious, highly successful modern organizations absolutely require a highly structured, deeply intuitive digital system for managing human capital. You urgently need a platform that actively applies the core principles of design, thinking directly to the daily employee experience. That is exactly where PulseMina HCM completely changes the massive corporate paradigm. PulseMina HCM is absolutely not just another clunky, highly frustrating legacy HR database. It is aggressively and beautifully designed with radical, uncompromising empathy for the actual human being using it. It seamlessly removes the painful digital friction from highly complex internal corporate workflows. Whether it is deeply intuitive performance tracking or flawlessly streamlined onboarding, it mathematically eliminates the exact operational friction that causes massive employee burnout. By providing crystal clear, highly structured visibility into your critical workforce data, PulseMina HCM directly allows modern business leaders to rapidly test, aggressively iterate, and flawlessly optimize their entire organizational structure. It is the highly guarded, elite operational secret weapon that successfully allows you to manage your complex human capital with the precise, empathetic logic of a world-class design firm. Ultimately, the legendary, world-changing success of Apple and IDEO proves a deeply inescapable law of modern global business. The ultimate competitive advantage is absolutely not superior technology. The ultimate competitive advantage is superior empathy. When you finally stop aggressively engineering blindly for the machine, and you rigorously start designing for the flawed, messy human being, you do not just simply build a better product. You architect a permanent, highly scalable, untouchable corporate empire. If you learned something incredibly new today, hit the like button and immediately subscribe for more elite strategy breakdowns. And let us precisely know in the comments below, what massive company's hidden strategy should we completely unlock next?